Review, a daily program that delves into the latest and most significant economic stories. From stock markets to currency news, Business Review covers the most up-to-date stories in the global financial world.
Brussels Airlines plan to cut the workforce and network by about 0.25% by the end of the year and reduce its fleet by 30% from 54 to 38 aircraft as part of a turnaround plan. The airline's CEO, Dieter Vranclich, said it urgently needs to survive the crisis and become structurally competitive in the future. He acknowledged the airline already needed to restructure before COVID-19, prompting a move at the end of last year to launch its Reboot turnaround program that targets an earnings before interest and taxes margin of 8% by 2022. Brussels Airlines suspended flight operations on March the 21st, and its fleet has remained grounded since then. The airline has not decided which aircraft will leave the fleet early. Much will depend on discussions with lessors on the conditions for the return of aircraft and termination of contracts without penalties. He said the global industry had seen a 60% decline in bookings and record airlines. He added next year would see a slow recovery of business, but demand was likely to be 25 to 30% down from 2019 levels. Brussels Airline will reduce its planes on European routes from 30 to 39 and those operating long-haul flights to 8 from 10. It'll also cancel the 5 planes it leases from CityJet.
Germany's busiest airport is hoping to push up passenger numbers again as corona restrictions start to relax and businesses strive to regain lost ground. According to officials, Frankfurt Airport will join other businesses in enforcing strict hygiene measures and has urged travelers to self-police and adhering to distancing regulations and mask wearing. Frankfurt Airport and Terminal Operations Manager Alexander Lückenmann said the main complications were to do with cross-country coordination with some countries following stricter quarantine restrictions than others. Lückenmann added the current situation at Frankfurt Airport means that it has a 3% of the standard number of passengers, between 5,000 and 8,000 passengers a day, where normally the airport would have 200,000 people coming through the terminals. As companies and businesses struggle to sustain themselves, many are getting creative. BOCA Automation has come up with a way to safeguard healthcare workers and stay relevant during the current period, as they are looking at developing a robot to take over testing duties in Germany. The test subject uses a QR code to introduce themselves to the robot, carries out the swab themselves, and returns the sample to the robotic arm. According to BOCA, the robot will be able to test 240 samples in 24 hours. The robot is still in the testing phase.
Razer Incorporated, a global gaming hardware manufacturing company, said Tuesday, May the 12th, it plans to dispense its locally produced masks in Singapore through a network of vending machines across the city-state, where it's become compulsory to wear them in public. The company said it will initially deploy 20 machines at some Frasers property malls and Just Co centers around the business district by June the 1st, when Singapore is set to lift lockdown measures. Razer, known for its gaming gear such as consoles and keyboards, is among a wave of companies that have modified new factory lines to meet a surge in demand for medical products during the pandemic. The company plans to soon double its surgical mask production capacity up to 10 million a month after setting up a manufacturing line in April in Singapore. Authorities in Singapore have been looking for new sources of supply and to develop local manufacturing capabilities for masks amid global shortages for medical protective equipment. Razer said it will provide an initial 5 million masks free for citizens and residents, after which they will be available for purchase.
Arno van der Mauwe, CEO of Daimler BAIC joint venture factory, said on May 13th, the Daimler joint venture's view on the Chinese auto market this year is moderately positive based on its April sales performance. The CEO made the comments during a visit to the Beijing-Benz Automotive Company's plant. He declined to comment on whether the joint venture will revise its 2020 sales target and said production had returned to normal levels after it had been under coronavirus measures. China is slowly resuming factory production across the country as well as restarting small businesses and daily activities. However, the country is also ramping up efforts to prevent a second wave of the virus, such as making widespread virus testing available for citizens. Major Chinese cities and provinces have published lists of hundreds of hospitals and clinics now authorized to perform tests and are expanding laboratory capabilities to allow people to obtain their test results in a few hours.
China's factory output rose for the first time this year as the world's second largest economy slowly emerged from its coronavirus lockdown, although consumption remained depressed and there were increased job losses. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the NBS, China's industrial added value in April grew 3.9% over the same period of last year. The official data released on Thursday showed the industrial added value went up 3.9%, rebounding from the 1.1% drop in March and the 13.5% slump in the first 2 months. The manufacturing reported the quickest recovery, growing 5% year-on-year, with that of high-tech equipment and manufacturing equipment rising by 10.5% and 9.3% respectively. Output value of industries in the production and supply of electricity, thermal power, gas and water reported a year-on-year increase of 0.2%. The mining sector is up 0.3%. The statement added, with consolidated epidemic controls and the restoration of economic activities, major indices showed industries have sustained the momentum of improved performance since March. In April, China's consumer price index grew 3.3% year-on-year. China is reopening the economy as the outbreak on the mainland comes under control. The production of oil, coal, metals and electricity all increased as plants restarted operations in April.
Tokyo 2020 Olympics organizers said on May 15th that they do not know how the International Olympic Committee plans on spending the money they have set aside to cover the costs of the rearranged games. The organizing committee CEO Toshiro Muto also added that talks were still underway as to how much the games postponement would additionally cost Japanese stakeholders. On Thursday, May 14th, IOC President Thomas Bach announced that his organization expects to bear costs of up to $800 million for its part in the reorganization of the Games, which were postponed by a year in March due to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. The IOC said $650 million would go towards the organization of the Games to start July 23rd of next year, and $150 million to support international federations and national Olympic committees. At a remote briefing on Friday, the organizing committee CEO said he hadn't seen a breakdown of the IOC's costs. The IOC and the Japanese government jointly took the decision in March to postpone the Olympics due to the coronavirus outbreak, the first time in history that the Games have been delayed.
Moscow streets have slowly been returning to normal as they got busier on Friday, May the 15th, few days after the Russian President Vladimir Putin announced the gradual easing of coronavirus-related lockdown measures, allowing work of basic sectors of the economy, such as construction and industry. Moscow scheduled the free mass testing of citizens for coronavirus from May the 15th. Moscow's mayor said Thursday the target of 100,000 people a day by the end of the month will be met. The mayor added around 70,000 blood analysis tests will be offered every day in the initial rollout. Meanwhile, according to the official website of the Moscow mayor, the commodity turnover of the enterprises of the capital's online sales in March amounted to 16 billion rubles, which is 38.2% more than in February. It's almost half of the total turnover for quarter one of 2020. Due to the support measures approved by Moscow's governor, retail trade continues to adapt to measurements of the pandemic, including developing the scope of online sales.
Business Review, your daily source for the most critical stories in the financial world. Tune in next time for the latest financial news impacting the world economy.